So what drives you is a great jumping off point to kind of think about what's currently inspiring us.
My job is to dig up secrets, to tell people things they don't know. And the best stories are where you don't just find a fact, but you find a person, or better yet, you find a story, or better yet than that, you find an entire kind of secret world.
I've always been driven by stories that are underneath the surface of a prevailing narrative. I care about theme. I care about, what is driving a culture? How is a culture going to change? What implications do these technologies have on culture?
What always drove me was pop culture, always trying to kind of understand what is going to make something become a hit. What happens, when that magic record comes out when I was a kid and suddenly it turns into a #1 record. How did that happen?
Should and does privacy matter? Does it matter to you personally? And should it matter to all of us?
Privacy, as we knew it, doesn't really exist in the minds of people who are looking to the future. We have this ability to stay so connected with whatever's happening in the world. But it's terrifying for those of us who don't really want our lives to be documented this way, to live this kind of reality show.
People talk a lot about how there's no anonymity left on the internet. It's possible to be more public on the internet than ever before. Most people are. But then it's also possible to be more private, to be more anonymous than ever before. I always find myself drawn to the hacker world, the cypherpunks and the WikiLeakers. WikiLeaks thrived because it granted anonymity to its sources.
One of the most nefarious slogans that have risen up in recent years is, if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. We can't be blasé about privacy.
I think there's a comfort level that is both this sense of inevitability, that privacy is kind of deteriorating and it's not really a concept, but that generationally it will be accepted.
What's a brand in the digital age? Are we moving into an age where the individual is the brand?
I think the brand is sort of the opportunity for people who have always felt that they had to work for someone else in order to get their story out, can now do it on their own.
How much of yourself do you have to put into a story or put yourself out there for an audience to care, when it used to be enough that you put out a good story?
People are beginning to understand that the technical landscape is an actual landscape. I'd say most of the stuff that's going on in the social space that I see is actually really helpful and interesting. And you were hearing about Egypt before it happened. I was on the front lines and everything that was going on in Syria. It was like, as it was happening, it was really incredible that these people had a voice.
My kind of driving idea, especially at a place like South by, is how do we actually not have this manufactured self out there in a constant way without at least being mindful of what that means. Authenticity is great, but I think there's this gap between what we think of when we say authenticity and what people are still trying to represent.